Hi everyone, and welcome to Getting Started with ArcGIS StoryMaps. My name is Amelia Semperbon, and I'll be presenting with my colleagues Liz Todd, our multimedia specialist, and our lead product engineer, Owen Evans. Today, we'll introduce you to StoryMaps, and we'll give you some tips and tricks to help you get started. So, what are ArcGIS StoryMaps? The StoryMaps Builder helps you combine maps, multimedia content, and text in a single space with no coding required. They're a great way to communicate your geospatial information, and you can curate a compelling narrative in just a few clicks. They also work on a variety of different screen sizes. StoryMaps are hosted on our servers, but you own all of the content you create. Now, 2 years ago, we launched ArcGIS StoryMaps, which combines your favorite classic template options in a single, flexible builder. And over the past decade, we've seen StoryMaps explode in popularity. As of right now, you've made over 1.7 million of them. They're being used by many different types of organizations, big and small. You can use them for anything: presentations, annual reports, engagement, personal narratives, and much more. But instead of just continuing to talk about ArcGIS StoryMaps, I'm going to throw it over to my colleague Liz to show you the Story Builder so that you can learn a couple of different storytelling techniques. Over to you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Amelia. So instead of talking at you about how great StoryMaps is, I'm going to jump into the builder soon and show you just how easy it is to create your own story. And the best place to start is esri.com/storymaps, which is the website that I'm on now. This is a really great website to bookmark and explore the resources that Esri StoryMaps team has developed. And we consistently curate and update the resources that are presented here. These range from stories we've created, to community stories and featured storytellers, to practical how-to blog posts and recordings of webinars that we've recorded recently, like StoryMaps Live. And it's also where you can launch the Story Builder and start creating. So I've gone ahead and launched ArcGIS StoryMaps, and I'm on my Stories page. And as you can see, this is where all of the content that I've created in StoryMaps in this account is housed. Right, I have my stories, any stories I've favorited, any stories from my group or my organization, and I can also access my collections or my themes, which Amelia will talk a little bit more about later. And this is also where I can create a new story. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how the New Story button works. When you click New Story, you have the option to start a story from scratch and use a blank canvas. You can also make use of one of our Quick Start options, which preloads an immersive block directly into your story. If you have an idea of the story structure that you want, or you just want to save some time, these are for you. Instead of starting a story from scratch, though, for this demo, I'm actually going to go ahead and jump into a story that I've already created to save us a bit of time. So now we're in a story called Introduction to Storytelling, and I've gone ahead and added a bit of content to this, right? So we have a little bit of maps, we have some media and some text, all about a trip I took a couple of years ago. And now that we're in the builder, you have a multitude of storytelling tools at your fingertips, but there's absolutely no need to be overwhelmed. I'm going to start by showing you some of the fundamental components and workflows that make familiarizing yourself with the tool a breeze. First up is the block palette. The block palette allows you to build your story piece by piece. You have things like text blocks, maps, media like videos, images, or audio. And then you also have your immersive blocks like slideshow and sidecar and map tour, which are all great options for more immersive and integrative experiences in StoryMaps. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of dig into each one a little bit. So I've gone ahead and added some text to this story. And once you've added a text block, you can use the rich text editor, which appears when you highlight text, to change the text style, the color, add hyperlinks, and even bold or italicize it, right? You can also add media blocks. So media blocks include images, videos, and audio, and you really want to use them to support your text narrative. So in this case, I'm using an image of a whale to support some copy above it that talks about some whales that I saw on my journey. Once you've added some content, you can use the media toolbar, which is at the top of your media content, to change the size of your media. So I can float this to the left, I can float it to the right, and I can also make it centered and smaller again. I can make it larger if I choose to do as well. You also may have noticed a little gear icon appearing in the toolbars for media blocks, and they're also in the toolbar for immersive blocks as well. And this is how you access the options panel, where you can make important decisions like how your media is displayed on different screen sizes, add asset attributions, or even configure alternative text. Alternative text will appear if media can't load, and also makes the content accessible for those with assistive technologies like screen readers. Accessibility is an important aspect of any story, and we have a variety of resources on our website to help you learn the techniques for accessible storytelling. So, earlier, I also mentioned immersive blocks. Immersive blocks are used to create an engaging experience for your reader. Use a block like slideshow to divert from single-column scrolling flow to create a more dynamic experience for your reader. Each block has its own unique format for how your text and media interact. And unlike media blocks, there are no sizing options. They lock into place and fill your entire browser window. They also have slide-based creations. So, as you can see, I'm on my first slide for this sidecar, and I can choose to automatically go to the second slide, which is a map that I made, another express map. Some immersive blocks also have multiple layouts, so you can swap between them as you build your narrative. One of the reasons multimedia storytelling is so popular is that combining photos, videos, and maps together with text make content feel more real and more memorable to readers. So in this case, I've used a sidecar. I started off with what we call docked panel, and now I'm in a floating panel, which I switched just a few seconds earlier. And I'm combining this image of some icebergs and a mountain with a map that talks about where the location of most of the icebergs on the Antarctic Peninsula are located. I spent most of my time on the western coast, but it actually turns out that on the eastern coast of the peninsula there are exponentially more icebergs. In this sidecar immersive, you also have the ability to add background audio to any slide, so I can go ahead and add audio if I wanted. And this will play automatically as the reader scrolls through. It's perfect for ambient audio that helps evoke a stronger sense of place, without competing too heavily with the text for your audience attention. So the next thing I want to mention is the design panel, where you can change your cover style. So let's go back up to the top of the story, right? And scroll up and take a look at this cover. I've opted for the side-by-side cover, but I could also make it a minimalist cover, or I could make it a full cover to talk a little bit more or highlight a different part of my image. In this case, I think I'm going to stick with the side-by-side. Here I can turn on and off navigation, and I can even add a credit section at the end, which is really important when it comes to making sure that you properly attribute all of the content, maps, and images that you use. It's always best to make sure you've got that all tied up before you go public with any story. And I can also change my story's theme from this panel, or customize the logo. In this case, I have a custom theme set up, and I'm actually going to toss it over to Amelia to talk with you more about custom theming and how you can create your own theme that fits with your organization's visual language, or even just one that you think are particularly fun.
Thanks, Liz. Now that Liz has showed us an amazing story that she created and applied a custom theme to that evokes the feeling of her trip to Antarctica, I'll show you all how easy it is to create a theme like this of your own. One of the things about ArcGIS StoryMaps that sets it apart is how customizable our builder is. Once you've logged into your builder, you can then create and access themes with a few simple clicks. I'll start out with the story that Liz just created for you. But you might notice that this version of the story has no theme applied. From here, I'll go up to the Design option and choose Manage My Themes. There are several different ways to access the theme builder, which we'll share in our resource links at the end of this presentation. The theme that we'll be using today is already partially built out, but if you wanted to create a new theme, you'd only have to select New Theme to get started. Here, I'm going to fill out some of the hex codes for the theme that Liz just applied to the story. Although you'll see that there are certain preset colors available for you in the builder, you also have limitless options to add in the colors that fit your brand best. Under typography, you'll see that you can also add custom fonts. For this story, we're using the typography option that's already in the builder. But we also recently added the Google Font Library to our theme builder. So, the font world really is your oyster now. There are also a lot of different customizable options for all of the different parts of your story. Here, you can see some varying button shapes as well. And if you're planning on including quotes, there are several quote options that you can choose from. And of course, because branding always matters, you can select your own logo to upload and apply to your story. Now remember, since there are so many different options that you can select to customize your story and theme, remember that accessibility will be affected by every choice that you make. In the resources section, you'll find storytelling tips to help you create the most accessible stories possible. Now, once your theme has been created, you can very easily apply it to your story like so. I'll hit publish. And once we refresh, we'll automatically see how the theme was applied to the story that Liz just worked on. But to streamline efforts so that organizations and companies don't have to worry about recreating themes over and over, custom themes can now be utilized by your entire organization. I'll show you how to create and share custom themes with your organization so that you and your team can always share consistent branding without having to duplicate. Administrators in your organization can allow specific ArcGIS groups to contain themes. After they've approved these themes, you can then apply the published theme to a story. Now, in my case, the ArcGIS group for themes in StoryMaps was already created. Once your organization's administrator has created and added you to the group, you can then select a theme to add from your content in sharing settings. Here, you'll see that I'm selecting the theme that we just created. When I click Share, I'm able to edit group sharing and select the group where all of the approved themes live for my team. Once it's been approved, it'll automatically be added to our theme list, and anyone on my team can apply it to a story that they create. You'll see here a list of all of the different themes that my organization has, including the one that I just created and shared within my group. If I choose any of these themes, I can automatically create a new story that has all of these presets applied. This makes it easy to work collaboratively and maintain brand consistency. Now, speaking of theming, it's not just for stories anymore. We recently updated themes so that you can add them to collections, too. Collections help you bring together all of your stories and can be used in a ton of different ways. Theming your collection is very similar to theming your story. Here's an example of a collection that will theme. Just like theming your story, simply go to the Design panel and select the theme that you wish to apply. Now that we've seen how we're able to theme our collections, let's take a deeper dive at what collections really are. Here's just a couple of examples of how you can use them to your advantage. Now, this collection was created and curated by the StoryMaps editorial team. Each week, the team puts out a story version of a newsletter, and by adding them to a collection, our readers never have to miss out on a week of action. Here's a very different but equally useful use for collections. These are several different stories that are created in order and have related content and theming. They were released one by one and added to this collection in order to give readers a holistic understanding of the topic as a whole. So, now that we've seen some examples of collections, let's make our own. In order to create your own collection, you'll either pull stories from your own content or from stories that you've favorited. The collection that I'll be creating with you is of the 2 winning stories from the 2020 StoryMaps competition for the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, this is the Hidden Realities story. This was the winning story in the student category, and it focuses on raising awareness for femicides in Turkey. I'll go to the top and favorite this so that I can add it to a collection. The second story that I'll favorite is Segregation is Killing Us, which won in the professional category. This story highlighted how historic segregation in New York City drastically affected certain communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now that I've added these 2 stories to my favorites, I'm able to put them into a new collection. I can also add my own content. As I start a new collection, I'll title it StoryMaps Collection and select Add to my collection. I can go to my favorites and search for the 2 stories that I just favorited. Once I've published this collection, viewers can seamlessly hop from one story to another. So now that you've learned a little bit more about themes and collections in ArcGIS StoryMaps, I'll hand it over to our lead product engineer, Owen, to give you a sneak peek at what's to come for the product.
Thanks, Amelia. Now that we've shown you many of the current capabilities of ArcGIS StoryMaps, I'd like to give you a sneak peek at some of the new things we're working on. We update StoryMaps every 2 weeks, so we've always got a lot of new features and enhancements in the pipeline. Okay, let's get started. Map Tour is one of my favorite storytelling blocks. It was the first classic template Esri released in 2013, and we've seen so many amazing map tours created over the years. The map tour block in ArcGIS Story Maps is something that already has a lot of capability, and we've got a lot more planned for it. For example, we're working on expanding the content and formatting options for Map Tour. Soon you'll be able to add audio, buttons, and lists to each tour place description. You can really bring a tour to life through the addition of narrated audio clips, sounds of nature, or whatever other audio might enhance the experience of browsing a tour. We're also working on bringing the easy-to-use sketching tools from Express Maps into Map Tour. Having these tools available in the tour builder will let you annotate a tour with arrows, callouts, and other markup to direct readers' attention to important details or more deliberately guide them along a path from one tour point to the next. We received a lot of feedback from the community about how much value Express Maps provide for storytellers. You can quickly add features and annotations, upload your own marker symbols, and group features in whatever way makes sense for your story. We're looking to provide the ability to sketch simple map features on a 3D globe, just like you can today on a 2D map. These new 3D Express Maps will be great for a lot of the same situations you already use the 2D maps for, such as small locator maps or showing a route or sequence of events. Highlight maps are a new type of map we're looking to bring to ArcGIS Story Maps. A highlight map will help your readers see and focus on an area of interest as part of your story, and they'll be very attractive and, of course, very easy to make. Creating a highlight map will be a simple two-step process. First, you'll pick a base map from the rich set of base maps provided by the ArcGIS Living Atlas. Then, you'll choose an area to highlight, such as a country, continent, or region. The builder will create a mask and an attractive highlight effect around the area you've chosen and insert the map into your story. Images are an important part of every story. Some authors have access to third-party tools that can be used to add effects or make other visual changes to images. But many people don't have access to these tools or the skills required to use them. We're working on providing a simple set of image processing tools right in the story builder so it's easy for anyone to add filters and effects to their images. For example, you'll be able to make an image black and white for a dramatic effect, or add a color tint to an image to make it better match your theme. These and other basic image editing tools are coming later this year to ArcGIS Story Maps. One thing we've heard from several people is the need to add and format tabular information in a story. Today, people usually do this with screenshots, which can work, but it has some limitations and it isn't very flexible. Adding a table to a story will be easy. You'll be able to add numeric or textual information, and the table will use the accent colors and fonts from your theme so it will match the rest of your story. The ability to add a table natively in the story builder will provide a much better and more accessible way to summarize information for your readers. We also have many other projects underway in various stages of planning, design, and development that we expect to add to Story Maps this year. These include a story outline feature, which is shown here. This will make it much easier for authors to jump around a longer story and even reorganize sections of a story. We're also working on updates to our text editor, working on FedRAMP certification, and a new curated Story Maps gallery that will have many amazing stories from our team and the community so everyone has a place to go to get ideas and get inspired. To wrap up, I wanted to share some helpful resources that you can use to get more information about ArcGIS Story Maps. We'll make sure the link to this story is available to everyone, so stay tuned for details on how to access it. First, I've included some links I like to call basic training. This first item is a collection of stories that help you understand what story maps are, what you can use them for, and how they can be a valuable storytelling tool for you and your organization. The second item is a collection of all the amazing tutorials and instructional content our team publishes. There are over a dozen items here on topics such as how to use Express Maps, tips on using embeds in your stories, how to design a great theme, and a lot more. I highly recommend checking out all of the items in this collection. Once you've reviewed the materials in those first two collections, you're ready to go beyond the basics. You can use these next two links to check out all the great content we publish on our blogs. A few times a month, our team posts articles on the main ArcGIS blog about storytelling and using story maps. I write a post each month about what new features and enhancements have been added to ArcGIS story maps, and we occasionally have guest posts we do in collaboration with other storytellers. In addition to the ArcGIS blog, we also have a more focused blog on the Esri community. Over there, we publish more technical articles and share information about very specific topics. If you haven't heard of the Esri community, it's just a new name for GeoNet. So be sure to check out all the great articles available on both of these blogs and subscribe for updates. A great way to get ideas for your next story or to learn new storytelling techniques is to look at what other people are doing. StoryMaps Live is a webinar series where you hear some of our amazing community members share their thoughts and experiences on storytelling. Many guests from various nonprofit organizations, all levels of government, and the creative community have shared their stories on StoryMaps Live. So make sure you catch up on the videos of past sessions and don't miss the next one. Another way to get inspired is to check out our StoryMaps Weekly Waypoint. This is a fantastic periodical that our team puts together about what's new and exciting in the world of story maps. It contains links to new and notable stories and gets you up to speed on the latest social buzz. Every year, we host a storytelling contest. This next resource is a collection of all the winners of last year's contest. If you truly want to be inspired, check out these best of the best stories. We've also got a gallery of great stories on our website that Liz showed earlier. These stories are listed by category and represent a wide variety of topics and sectors. This next link will help you find out more about our Storyteller user type license. It's a great way to open up storytelling to more of your coworkers. This is targeted towards people in marketing and public affairs departments who have a strong need for storytelling tools, but may not otherwise have access to your GIS organization. Although the vast majority of stories published each day are created using the latest ArcGIS Story Maps tools, there are a few of you who are still using our classic templates. This last resource is a guide to help you understand how to make the switch from classic to the latest and greatest. This story walks through each classic template and shows you how to use the new Story Maps builder to create similar experiences to what you are used to in classic. It also talks about some specific features that were available in classic and where to find them in the new Story Maps builder. It also outlines a lot of benefits of transitioning to using the new and modern storytelling tool. Lastly, at the bottom of this story, I have the link to this presentation and links for following our team on social media and where to go to sign up for our monthly newsletter. These are the best ways to get notified of all the latest news about story maps. So that brings our presentation to an end. I want to thank Liz and Amelia for presenting with me today, and we hope you enjoyed hearing about all the amazing things you can do with story maps. We've left some time for questions, so at this point, we can begin our Q&A.